Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Bible study brought to you by the Assembly of Yahusha. Today, we're going to continue in our investigation of Isaiah 43, 5 to 6. By this time, you probably already noticed the Iglesia Ni Cristo are pretty good. They're experts at twisting this specific biblical passage. And today, we're going to look at the most bizarre part of INC's twisted interpretation of Isaiah 43, 5 to 6. They use Isaiah 43, 5 to 6 as basis for their two pillars, which basically supports their election, their calling as the only true church in these last days. And so when they use Isaiah 53, 5 to 6, they interpret or twist the meaning of ends of the earth to make it mean July 27, 1914, and they twist the meaning of Far East and connect it to Isaiah 24, 15 and 16. And by twisting it further, make it seem that it's referring to the Philippine Islands. But we have uncovered their twisting methods in our previous Bible studies. And we do hope that you will take the time to watch those episodes. But one of the passages that they use again and again and twist again and again is Isaiah 43, 5 to 6. And so they twist Isaiah 43, 5 to 6 by taking ends of the earth and say this refers to the time, because they say, well, it already mentions the place, which is the east, which we know is again a twisting of the passage, because it's not about the work of God in the east, it's the work of God gathering people from the east, the north, the south, and the west. And the most bizarre, now here comes the most bizarre part of the twisting of this passage, is what the Iglesia Ni Cristo teaches about the north and the south. I don't know if you are aware of this, but it's something very hard to swallow. I don't know why people actually believe it, but here it is. Let's go ahead and look at north and south. In the passage, it says, I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Now, what do you think? I mean, if you were a reader of scripture and you have your mind on, no bias whatsoever. I mean, when you read north and south, what is your interpretation or explanation of north and south? Is it a direction? Of course, right? I mean, a smart reader will know it's a direction. North and south is a direction, just like east and west is a direction. But take a look at how the Iglesia Ni Cristo will twist Isaiah 43, 5 to 6, and how they will twist north and south. In, again, the article written by Mendy Nepomuceno, from Pasugo, God's Message Magazine, God's Last Work of Salvation. So he cites Isaiah 43, 5 to 6, as you see there. And he mentions, I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. And here's the explanation. Take a look at what he says. He says the bringing out of people are going to come from two main religions, Catholicism and Protestantism, which were represented by south and north, respectively. Did you get that? Isn't that bizarre? And so according to the Iglesia Ni Cristo, the north and the south are not literal directions. They are symbolical. North represents Protestantism and south represents Catholicism. And so they believe that when it comes to east and west, it's a direction. When it comes to north and south, it's a religion. I mean, isn't that bizarre? But why do we believe that north and south is not really referring to Catholicism and Protestantism? I mean, do we really even need to look into this? It's pretty obvious it's an error, but for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and take a look at it. In Isaiah 43, 5 to 6, we know it could not, north and south could not be referring to a religion. It could not be referring to Protestantism, Catholicism, because it mentions when it says, I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Take note of the pronoun them. Who does them refer to? It says, I will say to the north, give them up. And so there are those who are from the north referred to as them. And there are those who are from the south referred to as them. Who are them? Well, they're the same descendants who will come from the east and also from the west. And so they will come from the north, from the south, the east, and the west. These are the descendants, which we know refers to the physical descendants of Jacob and Israel. So these are physical Israelites. And so we hope you take the time to watch this episode of our Bible study. Isaiah 43, 5-6 is about bringing and gathering the scattered physical descendants of Israel who are exiled in the farthest regions of the world. And so the North and the South is not referring to Catholicism and Protestantism. Another reason why North and South does not refer to Catholicism and Protestantism is because when you look at the context of Isaiah 43, 5-6, it's obvious. There's only one possible explanation that makes sense. East, west, north, and south are literal directions, literal cardinal directions. Now, if north and south are symbolical, which is what is alleged by the Iglesia Ni Cristo, then east and west must also be symbolical. And so what does east actually mean? What does west actually mean? You can't be arbitrary. You can't just select, okay, this one's symbolical, this one's literal. If you do that, if you're going to impose symbolism when you interpret scripture, you can make it appear and communicate whatever you want. You can say, oh, this is a symbol of this. This is a symbol of that. That's not how you study scripture. You let the verse, you let the context give you the explanation of what it means. And so when we read Isaiah 43, 5-6, we need to read it as is. We don't put our imagination into it and make it communicate what it actually doesn't say, right? Otherwise, we're twisting scripture, and we don't want to twist scripture. So the terms east, west, north, and south are literal cardinal directions and are meant to be understood literally and not symbolically. What is the proof? I'm going to give you two proofs. Number one, Isaiah 43, 5-6 is connected to Isaiah 11, 11-12. We looked at this before in our previous Bible study. It's about the work of God bringing and gathering together his people. In Isaiah 11, it's about assembling, gathering together, setting his hand to recover the remnants from Jacob and Judah and from Israel, right? And so this is the work that is depicted in these two prophecies. And so the Bible tells us it's from the ends of the earth, which is the four corners of the earth. The four corners of the earth refers to the four cardinal directions of the earth: north, south, east, and west. In Isaiah 43, 5-6, it mentions those four cardinal points. And Isaiah 11, 11-12 gives us specific nations who are found in those literal directions. Like, for example, the east corresponds to Assyria, Elam, Shinar. When you look at the north, it's Hamath. When you look at the south, it is Egypt, Pathros, and Cush. And the west, the islands of the sea, or the coastlands west of Israel, the Mediterranean Sea. And so when it comes to the directions in Isaiah 43, 5-6, it corresponds to nations in those directions, which tells us north, south, east, and west are not symbolical, but literal. It's referring to actual directions, okay? So that's one. Number two, when it mentions the east, the west, the north, the south, we know it's referring to a literal direction because it's a part of a poetic expression called biblical merism. Do you know what a merism is? It's the use of opposites to communicate totality. For example, when I say I search from high to low, it doesn't mean I just search the ceiling and the floor. It means I search everything between the ceiling and the floor. And so it's using opposites to communicate totality. And so the Bible mentions east and west. It means everything between east and west. When the Bible mentions north and south, it means everything between north and south. And so east, west, north, south, the Bible's using merism. And so for the Bible to use merism, north and south, has to mean actual directions, not symbolical, not Protestantism and Catholicism. So east, west, north, south, it is a merism, which means everything in between. When you take east, west, north, and south and extend it as far as possible all the way to the ends of the earth. This is why north and south can only mean one thing. It's a direction. It is a literal application. It's not symbolizing Catholicism and Protestantism. There's no biblical case whatsoever for the claim that north and south refers to Protestantism and Catholicism, respectively, which makes me, really want to knock on the door of EVM and ask him, what is the biblical basis for believing this? All right? I mean, what is the actual basis for such a ridiculous claim? And so I went back to the article written by, was it Mandy Nepomuceno? So I looked back at Mandy's article, and I was hoping maybe they have a biblical basis that we can kind of look into, right? That would be fun. And so I went back thinking there must be a basis because this is the Iglesia ni Cristo, the only true church, right? They must have a basis. So I went back and checked, could they have a biblical basis for this? And so I went back, and lo and behold, do you see it? Their biblical basis is not biblical at all. What is it? Encyclopedia Britannica Macropedia. That's their basis. And so when you read this Macropedia Encyclopedia Britannica, their conclusion, their basis for why they believe north means Protestantism and south means Catholicism is because when they look at how Catholicism and Protestantism spread, kind of stabilized in Europe, it says Northern Europe was largely Protestant and Southern Europe was largely Catholic. Therefore, in Isaiah 43, 5-6, north represents Protestantism, south represents Catholicism. And so when you go check the map, turns out that's kind of correct. World History Encyclopedia says in Europe, the religious landscape is roughly divided by a geographic fault line, historically shaped by the 16th century Reformation. So Protestantism dominates in northern and northwestern Europe. You see the purple, right? While Catholicism is the majority faith in southern, western, and central Europe. And so according to this encyclopedia, when you look at Europe, right? When you look at Europe, northern Europe is dominated by Protestantism. When you look at southern Europe, it's dominated by Catholicism. Therefore, you connect it to Isaiah 43, 5-6. North, south, east, and west. North and south refers to Catholicism and Protestantism. Does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. Do you know why? Do you see a big problem? Or why this doesn't make any sense? I want you to look at the map. And I want you to think about something. Because when the Bible speaks of directions, it speaks from what reference point? When it speaks of east, what is it? What is the reference point? Because when you speak of the direction east or west, north or south, it must have a reference point, right? Otherwise, it can mean anything. And oftentimes, in prophecy, in scripture, the reference point is always Israel. East, north, south, west of Israel. Now, do you see a problem here? Right? Because they say, well, Northern Europe, Protestantism. Southern Europe, Catholicism. The only problem is, well, all of Europe is northwest of Israel. I mean, it would be something, you can make a point, perhaps, if you look at north of Israel, and it's all Protestants. And when you look at south of Israel, it's all Catholics. That would be something that might make it, right? But it's still a big if. And it's still a big stretch if that was the case. But in this case, when you look at Europe, yes, north is dominated by Protestants, south is dominated by Catholics, but both north and southern Europe, they're north of Israel. And so it all falls down. And so the Iglesia ni Cristo has twisted that. I mean, just thinking about it, kind of, I don't know, it just makes you shake your head, The Iglesia ni Cristo twisted Isaiah 43, 5-6 multiple times. They say ends of the earth refers to time. Nowhere in Scripture do you have ends of the earth refer to time. It's always referring to a place. Sometimes it will use an argument. When you look at katse, it refers, sometimes it can be used to refer to an end of time. It could, if you match it with time. Katse means ends. What you want is katse ha'eretz. Okay? So when you have katse ha'eretz, katse and eretz together, it's always referring to time. And when you look at ends of the earth, this is part of the merism. North, south, east, west. So part of far east, far west, far north. Ends of the earth refers to the merism of north, south, east, and west. And so they twist ends of the earth to mean a time, when in actuality, it is a place. And then they go to the east, right? They say the east is the islands of the sea in the far east, the Philippines. When you look at it, this work of God is not in the east. It is from the east. In other words, Yahweh God's work is to bring people out from the east, from the north, from the south, from the west, and bring them where? The land of Israel. Again, they twisted the scripture. And worst of all, the north and the south, they say, is referring to Catholicism and Protestantism. So this is a gross twisting of the Holy Scriptures. 3 times they twisted Isaiah 43:5-6. And there's a warning given to us by the Apostle Peter, 2 Peter 3:16, speaking of this, as he does in all his letters. There are some things in those epistles of Paul that are difficult to understand, which the ignorant and unstable twist and misconstrue to their own utter destruction, just as they distort and misinterpret the rest of the scriptures. Apostle Paul warns about those who are unstable and ignorant. And so they end up twisting, misconstrue scriptures. They misconstrue the teachings of Paul. They also misconstrue and twist the other scriptures. And so we saw again and again how they twisted Isaiah 43:5-6. If they twisted Isaiah 43:5-6, so they can make it appear that the Iglesia Ni Cristo is the only true church that will be saved. If they twisted that to support that faulty view, don't believe them again. Do not trust their teachings, because Peter says it is to their own destruction. If you listen to what they say, they're going to take you to destruction as well. This is why we have this Bible study. We're investigating all of this because we don't want you to be destroyed. But false doctrine can lead you to damnation. It's not true that the Iglesia Ni Cristo is the only true church because of Isaiah 43:5-6. Isaiah 43:5-6 is not about God's work in the Far East. It's about God's work of bringing together Israel into the land that he promised Abraham. Okay? Hopefully you benefited from this Bible study and that you will continue to join us in our future episodes when we will continue to investigate the strange claims of the Iglesia Ni Cristo. We are the Assembly of Yahusha. Please follow us at Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. That's all. May Yahweh Abba and Yahushua HaMashiach bless all of us.